Almost a week ago now, Israel assassinated Faroud, which is the senior commander of Hezbollah in Beirut, the capital of Lebanon, and Ismail Haniyeh, Hamas's lead negotiator and lead political leader, in Tehran, in the capital of Iran. Escalating tensions in the region. What does this mean for the prospect of a wider war in the Middle East? How would you handle the situation differently to promote peace and stability? Um, you have made Palestine such an integral part of your campaign. Why is this so important to you? And lastly, I want to touch on Ukraine. Things are escalating there too, thus bringing back this nuclear shadow. Um, how would you deal with that as well, relative to the status quo that we have right now? And we know how the Democrats will deal with it because they've been dealing with it. We know how Trump will deal with it because he uses Palestinian as an insult, and he said that uh, Israel should be allowed to finish the job. Um, and so we know what they will do, but interested in hearing a little bit about you. And apologies that we're running out of time. And then after this, I would love if you have the time to ask you our audience questions because a lot of Americans submitted questions for you that they're interested in the response.
Great. Okay, terrific. And if we need to run over a few minutes on my end, that's okay if that works for you. But these are really important issues, and let me just try to address them as succinctly as possible. So, we are sitting on a powder keg in the Middle East right now, and we have been, for decades, basically, because Israel has had basically a blueprint of ethnic cleansing from the get-go. And this was not clear for all the world to see until the Israeli National Historic Archives were opened up in the 1990s. And a number of Israeli historians took a look at it again and said that, no, basically, this is a policy of terrorizing Palestinians from the start. This is not something that happened. This was the plan, was basically to drive Palestinians out from the get-go. And it was a very violent plan from the very beginning. And we're seeing now kind of the end game, the consequence of 76 years, basically, of a murderous apartheid state and ethnic cleansing. And, it's been especially bad over the last 16 years. And October 7th didn't come out of nowhere. This is what happens when a people are basically being starved to death and murdered, in their daily lives. Israel has been, or I should say Gaza has been basically an open air prison where people are hardly fed. And then starting on October 8th, I think it was, massive starvation essentially was imposed on the whole population, and food and water and medicine and fuel were all cut off as housing was destroyed, as sanitation was destroyed. I mean, it is a living hellscape, and all institutions, housing, schools, universities, healthcare centers, hospitals, everything is destroyed. People are living, in absolutely horrific conditions, that almost that are almost indescribable. Children are being targeted and shot by snipers, as are civilians in general, but especially children. What's going on is unbelievable. A population of 2 million people has essentially been tortured for 9 months, and they are being murdered. And this is just incredible. And Israel has really, through its broader hostile policies, it has really roused its neighbors. And these two back-to-back assassinations carried out last week has really, pushed this to the breaking point. And it's very telling that Israel assassinated the leader of the ceasefire negotiations. That tells you how much Israel is interested in negotiating a solution to this crisis. And and there have been hostilities between Israel and its neighbors for quite some time, and those are absolutely, going, just off the rails. The U.S. is fundamentally responsible here because the U.S. has enabled all of this. We provide the weapons, we provide the military funding, we provide the diplomatic cover, we provide intelligence. And it's so ridiculous that the US stands there and they wring their hands. Oh, how can we rein Israel in? I can't imagine how we could ever rein Israel in, because the US is the one that is enabling this. US could rein Israel in, enforce compliance with international law, with the ICJ decisions in the blink of an eye. And prior presidents have done this. Both Eisenhower and Ronald Reagan have done this when Israel was going over, was massacring people beyond the borders of Israel and Palestine. When the massacres, rolled into Lebanon, Reagan called it to a halt and basically, they can do that. They can do that because we are making it possible. So all we have to do is withhold the weapons, which, by the way, are illegal anyhow. Under US law, we cannot be providing military assistance to countries that are violating humanitarian law, that are interfering with the delivery of humanitarian aid, and which are violating nuclear weapons treaties. And Israel counts on all three scores. So that assistance is illegal to start with, just in terms of US law. So it's the president has the authority. I'm sorry?
You're referring to the Leahy law.
The Leahy law is one of them, yes, and there are two others as well, including that it's illegal to supply arms to a country that's in violation of nuclear weapons treaties. And Israel, has nuclear weapons, which it tries not to acknowledge, but it's clear that it does, which violates the non-proliferation treaty. So there are three laws basically that are being violated. So it's not hard for us to fix this. We have the power to fix this in the blink of an eye. And for the US to be trying to talk Iran and Hezbollah and Yemen out of responding to Israel's aggression is ludicrous, because we can control Israel's aggression and we're telling them to just like suck it up, but we're not doing anything about Israel's aggression. So it's not likely that this, these frantic negotiations that are supposedly taking place now behind closed doors, it's very unlikely that that's going to get anywhere, because Israel has powerful neighbors. They're all really mobilized right now. This is not just terrible for people in Gaza subject to genocide. This is terrible for the people of Israel. And there are, however many, I'm not sure what it is, 9 million, something like that. There are a lot of human beings who are in the crossfire right now. This crossfire is extremely dangerous. If we want the people of Israel to survive here, we need to bring them as well into compliance with international law. And we need to move forward with the ICJ resolution. So how I would do this if I were in the White House right now, or if I'm in the White House come, next January, we will deal with this by picking up the telephone and telling Israel in no uncertain terms that the genocide and the occupation are over, and that it's time to withdraw to the 1967 borders, as the most recent, the second of two ICJ resolutions basically stated. So it's not hard to do this. It's very hard for an empire to back off, which is why we need new leadership, and we need to throw the bums out who are basically driving us towards potential nuclear conflagration right now on several fronts.